Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the Panic Room for the start of a fresh week. It's a week we're going to talk about authority. We're going to talk about how many people can be together in a room at the same time, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. You may not be in the Hotel California, but you may be in a hotel around Australia, locked down. And I've actually, as again, for the sake of everyone in this place at the Panic Room, I sneaked out of the Panic Room yesterday with Wilson, who's looking like he needs a haircut. So he's got a bit, he needs a little bit of a trim. And we went down to a hotel, and people are starting to get a little bit antsy. In fact, I went into one hotel and there's this guy trying to break out. And it looked a little bit like this. So I wasn't quite sure if this guy was trying to get into someone else's hotel room or break out of his own and infect the world with coronavirus, but he wasn't a happy man. And so are we at the stage where we're going to have to do a tighter lockdown, or are people actually going to start obeying what the authorities say? So this is a question of authority, Dave. What do you think about authority in Australia?
Oh, this is a bizarre country for authority, because on the one hand, you're very much rebels, so much so that I think a complete lockdown will never work here, because a third of Australians will never, ever accept any injunction not to go to the beach or the bush. But on the other hand, you're quite conformist with quite a lot of things. I mean, it's a very bureaucratic society. I'll tell you my two favorite stories about this so far. A favorite and not in a great way. One is that everyone who comes into Australia now has to go to a hotel for 2 weeks. And some of them have been going to 5-star hotels. And I actually heard that some of the people who are going to 5-star hotels are complaining about the quality. So that's it's not even a first world problem. That's a very eastern suburbs problem. Will I put it that way? I don't know what your Perth equivalent is. What's the Perth equivalent?
The western suburbs. Yeah, exactly. There's a Perth woman. I hadn't heard of her. She's called an influencer, though I read it first and it said influenza. And it's Jessica Pamili, and she is in a 5-star hotel, and she said it's worse than a prison. I assume she's been to a prison?
Yeah, she's always saying, your prisons must be something else. The other one that was really sad, and I'm finding it difficult to comprehend this, but apparently it's true, that 33 doctors arrived from a medical cruise, in other words, a junket, came into Sydney Airport and then disobeyed the rule and basically spread all over Australia on internal flights and didn't tell anyone. I mean, that is just breathtaking. I think there are some people who do think they're above authority as well.
Yeah, look, I think that's interesting, because some people say that those doctors didn't know they weren't supposed to do that. Some said they did know, and there was lots of confusion around it. But the question for me is, if you're a doctor and we've been told, listen to what the doctors say, it would seem that even traveling as a doctor, you should know a little bit more, have a little bit more sense than that, because the issue that we're dealing with at the moment is you can have 2 people together. This is okay, folks. This is not okay. I don't know if I could put it any other way. This is not okay. This is okay. And
well,
I look like
two people together. Do you know, I'm going to say this. I mean, this may be completely shocking, but I just put it out. I write a letter from Australia every single, it goes out every Monday morning. And I am so impressed with the leadership in this country. So there you go. There's a shock. Forget the politics of it. I mean, the politics is involved. But when I hear Scott Morrison, I just go, and I like Albanese as well. I just think it's nice to have grown-ups in charge of the country.
Yeah, look, that's what I like. I like the fact that we're adulting. Now, if in China, as Scott Morrison said, they were welding the doors shut in China, and in the UK, it seems there's much more of a lockdown. The Aussie attitude, as you were saying, to authorities is a bit different, but we still had a case where they'll go into different stages of lockdown because people just simply can't do it. They just can't bring themselves to come under authority. Is that a human condition? I mean, Australians are known as people who sort of, we were founded on our convicts, not our convictions. Have Australians do you think it'll get worse? Do you think somehow we'll be okay for a while and then we'll just get angry and just bust out?
No, this is what I think, and this is why I think I think the authorities here have been pretty good, and that's why I think people should obey them. Now, we went out for a walk recently, and we drove to the northern beaches and we walked around. There were lots of people in this particular bush area, but they were all keeping the 2 meters distance. I was so impressed with that. I actually think people here have been pretty good. You get on the train, it's the same thing. Now, in the UK, they're basically sending drones if you go out walking alone in the hills, which is just bizarre. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I think if we respect what the authorities are saying, and here's what I think they're doing. I think they're ratcheting it up. Now that they've completely shut the borders, they are hoping that if they ratchet it up now for a week or 2 weeks, then we'll begin to see a diminishing. And if that happens, let me tell you that is virtually miraculous. If they've got this right, then it would be extraordinary. And that's why every single one of us have got to give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think they're panicking. I think it's been thought through, and they're trying to keep the economy open, and they're trying to protect lives. And personally, I love it. I'm willing to submit to this authority. If I think the authority is nuts, that's slightly different.
Yeah. So if you think the authority's nuts, because there's the other thing, you don't think the authority's nuts at the moment, but other people saying either I can go to the beach because it doesn't matter, or lock everything down now for the next 6 months. It's how we recognize authority, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you how I recognize authority. I don't like the idea of being confined to this panic room or confined to my house. In fact, coming into the panic room with you for 10 minutes every day is wonderful. For 15 minutes, it'd be too much. But
it would be.
I don't like not going in. I mean, I want to go into the city. I want to go to a restaurant. I want to do all these things, but I'm not doing it. Not because I'm personally, I think it would probably be okay, but I'm respecting the authority. And I think, for those of us who are Christians, we have to do that. But there also comes a time when it's right to rebel against the authority.
Yeah. And when is that time? When is that time?
When it commands us to go against God's word. So, for example, if I was being commanded to slaughter all the firstborn, that I would rebel. Or if I was ordered to go to Perth,
ordered to go to Perth. Well, it's only 2018 in Perth, so we're still 2 years away from coronavirus. It's not actually happened here yet. Now, this shows my age, but there's an old Simpsons episode where a pop psychologist comes to town, and in the end, Bart ends up on the top of it, of the stage, talking about things, and they say to him, "What's your thing on life?" He says, "I do what I feel." And the psychologist says, "That's the way to go, people. Do what I feel. Be like the boy. I do what I feel." Sure enough, the town goes to pieces. It's a morality tale. What happens when we do what we feel, Dave?
I think when we do what we feel, sometimes it works out well, and I think other times it doesn't work out well. The problem is we live in a society and in a community, and therefore if people have opposite feelings. So I feel that I want to drive on the right-hand side of the road. You feel you want to drive on the left. Yeah. Inevitable collision. And I think that's a daft example of what it is. I mean, I feel that I do want to go and sit in a restaurant and chat with some of my friends, but I'm not going to do it because I accept what the authority is saying. So on the other hand, if the authority says you've got to do this for 1 year, and meanwhile they're letting, say the wealthy go and do that. So come back to the United Kingdom, they're letting people fly into Heathrow from New York, 20 flights a day, not checking them at all. And yet they've got drones out, people walking in the Peak District.
So once again, the losers on this are the people who are further down the food chain. So authority does that where you're further down the food chain and authority is tighter on you. And further up the food chain, things are relaxed. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I think authority without Christian principles, I would argue, ends up being authoritarianism. But Steve, I'm going to exercise some authority because we need to go. Have you got anything else to finish us off with?
Yeah, one last verse from the Bible in the book of Judges, which is about authority issues, that no one was ruling the nation of Israel well. And it says it several times, in those days there was no king in Israel. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes. The issue of authority comes down to whose authority. And generally, as humans, we say, my authority, unless it's imposed on me. So that's a thought to lead us with. Whose authority are we coming under and why?
Hey, before you say goodbye, can I just say this, that just for anyone who wants to come back tomorrow, I'm going to have a look at a column that wonderful friend of Christianity, Peter Fitzsimmons, in the Sydney Morning Herald had. He's really thinking this is going to be the end of religion. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. See you then, Steve.
See ya.